Hi everybody, tonight is March 19th, 2015, and you're watching episode 16 of The Current Status. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Melissa Palmer, and you can find me on Twitter at bmiss33.
And I am Teresa Miller, also one of the co-hosts, and you can find me on Twitter at 24/7 IT Connect.
And I'm Pamela Schmidt, one of the other three co-hosts, and you can find me on Twitter at Exchange Goddess.
Tonight we have a very special guest. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you do?
Sure, I bet you say that's all the guests.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm Lauren Malhoit, at Malhoit on Twitter. Recently started working for Cisco in July, working in their NCMA business unit. So we concentrate mostly on application-centric infrastructure, ACI, and the Nexus 9000 series switches.
Okay, I am personally super excited to have you on because I totally geeked out when the Nexus 9Ks came out. I think they're awesome. So from what I understand, you can run them in two different modes. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Sure, that's right. So you can run it either in the Nexus OS standalone mode or in ACI mode. So with Nexus standalone, you get your regular kind of Nexus data center switch that everyone kind of knows and loves. With the 9K, we're going to a more and more open kind of platform, basically. So you'll get to do more and more kind of Linux-based stuff in that as time goes on. But yeah, mostly I concentrate on the ACI mode stuff. So that's how we do our, some people call it SDN. It's like SDN plus a little bit. But so we use the Nexus 9Ks only, exclusively with ACI.
So for those of our viewers who aren't quite familiar with ACI, can you kind of give us a quick overview of what it is and when you would use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's probably meant for not necessarily your smaller customers that only, make a network change twice a year or something like that, but more for your larger networks that you're constantly kind of working with and manipulating, making changes. So, application-centric infrastructure, right? It's concentrating on the application, and what that kind of means to us is breaking down the barriers between the application and software guys and the network guys. You don't see them in the room too often communicating. So we're really trying to dive into that. Instead of just moving traditional networking into a software layer, we're rethinking the way we do networking. We're getting rid of some of the layer 2 penalty stuff, things that come along with STP, blocking, that causes a lot of problems within our traditional networks. Instead, what we do is we assign endpoint devices into groups that are probably similar. We always use the kind of 3-tier web app database example. Of course, no one has a 3-tier example. It's always, 8 or 9 or something like that. But basically, just to kind of get the point across, you have, your app endpoint group, if you will, and you want it to talk to your web endpoint group, for instance. So we do that just by assigning policies or contracts in ACI. And that's kind of how it's all a policy-driven declarative network instead of the imperative network that we're also used to, which is the differences there being imperative. You have specific instruction sets that you need to know for each model of your networking device, whatever you're working with, switches, firewalls, etc. In the declarative model, we are saying, here's what we want our end result to be, and then everything kind of automatically does that through the use of our controller.
So that's the APIC, and where does that actually live? Does that live on the 9K?
So no, the APIC is a separate controller, so it's Application Policy Infrastructure Controller. Right now, it is on Cisco C-Series UCS, the 220 M3, I believe, right now. But it's a hardened image that you have to kind of buy through Cisco. We put the hardened image. It's not like something you could control through UCS Manager and things like that. So you need at least 3 of those right now. I mean, you can do it with 1, but in production environments, we need at least 3.
Redundancy.
Exactly. So that's kind of where the APIC lives, and then you get to the APIC. I mean, you can SSH into it if you want, but I mean, generally you go to the GUI and use the controller, the web browser, to control all of the aspects of the network.
So, Lauren, So this is, listen to you talk, this is definitely an enterprise application or product, I should say, versus your small mom pop shop. Okay, yeah, because
Again, it's going to depend on how you do your networking, right? I mean, if you could be a small mom and pop shop that does a lot of different things. I mean, you could still be an SMB that could require the use of an SDN solution, perhaps ACI. But yeah, again, if you're like a one-man IT shop that maybe makes a flat network that maybe makes a network change once a year, then I mean, we're not going to sell you ACI.
So I am wondering, you said it's kind of application aware or application centric.
Mm-hmm.
Did I understand that correctly? So how granular is that? Like, does it know if you're using Exchange? Like, do you configure that to that degree, or like Citrix, the same kind of thing, or am I overthinking this a little bit?
No, I see what you're saying. So no, not directly through the APIC would you be doing that, but you would probably put all of your Exchange servers into the same endpoint group and then assign policies according to what they are. So also keep in mind I said SDN plus in the beginning. So we can manage virtual physical layers. We don't care what they are. They can be virtual physical servers in the same endpoint group. It could be another device, a layer 4 through 7 device that's in the same endpoint group, or a different endpoint group. The way we do it, though, is through the policies that we apply to that.
Okay.
So, and all of the policies are repeatable, right? So the best example is to have like a dev tenant and a prod tenant, right? I can take all of the stuff I've been doing in my dev tenant, all the policies, all of that, and just copy it and paste it into my prod tenant when I'm ready to use it. So it becomes very repeatable process oriented, basically.
Yeah, nice.
So we're talking a little bit about policy driven, and that's kind of been the trend in a lot of things, not just networking and storage and compute, moving towards a policy-based thing. And I think there's a big organizational shift that almost has to happen as people do that. So how are you seeing people implement ACI in the sense that, are they going in with a single project and putting their big toe in? What are they doing it when they build out a completely new infrastructure? How do you see that transition going?
Sure. So, I mean, there's really no such thing as a greenfield environment when you're talking to large enterprises, right? So yeah, a lot of people are starting with maybe a DR project and things like that, or starting up with their backup data center, things like that. If they are implementing a new application, that of course is also where people are really concentrating. And then of course there are greenfield cases where, say, like a cloud provider is creating a new data center. Then they might choose to use ACI in their new data center, and it will integrate with traditional networking as well. So we can connect to like layer 2 or layer 3 outside to any other switches. I mean, usually Nexus 5 or 7K is what we see because we're Cisco, but really anything else is you can connect, out any way you want.
So that's good. So I could say, okay, I have project XYZ. I'm going to bring in a FlexPod, and I'm going to run ACI for project XYZ, and that'll still integrate into my existing Nexus topology I have today, whatever that might be.
Exactly. And if you're using, OSPF or, whatever routing protocol you're using, we can, of course, accommodate for that as well.
That's good because it gives customers the ability to kind of slowly but surely, as they refresh their gear, as they bring new projects online, to kind of start using this new methodology.
Yeah, exactly. And we really don't expect, customers to just rip and replace everything. I mean, it'd be great, right? But I don't think we'd get very far with that.
Yeah, we're going to take a wrecking ball to the old data center and start from scratch. So how should we do this?
Although some customers might appreciate that too. It's the financial guys that probably don't appreciate it.
It's not unheard of.
That's true.
It's not unheard of. I'm sure it's been done before.
Right. That'd be a fun project.
That would be a fun project.
I did something similar to it. I wouldn't say we.
But did you get to take a wrecking ball and literally boom into the data center?
No.
Because that's what I'm talking about. Just bulldoze, dynamite, whatever, the whole thing, and
sledgehammers.
Office space, everything in the data center.
Ooh.
We wanted to do that to our AS400, the tank. We just wanted to throw it down the tracks, down the hill, and we had railroad tracks at the end of the hill, and just push it down, and then when an oncoming train is coming, and just watch it. Yeah, we never got to do that. Actually, I want to ride on it down and then jump off as the train's coming. So, yeah. I think legal might have had an issue with that.
I bet. I'll say on a much smaller scale, talking about taking sledgehammers to computers. I had a couple old PCs laying around here that they were old, and I let my kids have fun with it. They got through the case and everything with hammers and screwdrivers. The preferred tool of choice was not the screwdriver. That wasn't fun enough. So, anyways, I digress.
Yeah, we had an electrical and computer engineering picnic one year when I was in college. Like, we had this picnic every year, and they were actually, like, the department was moving floors. They found all this old stuff they just didn't need anymore, and they got a big tarp, some sledgehammers, some gloves, some safety gear, and we literally office spaced all this old oscilloscopes and printers and computers and everything. It was a lot of fun, actually.
That'd be super fun. Take your frustration.
Great stress relief.
It was right during finals too, so it was like, yes, attack.
Would be a good fundraiser.
Yes,
that's actually a really good idea.
Or a team building experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's all get together and build some relationships with a sledgehammer. I think that HR would like that one.
Maybe they'll go for it.
It's like playing paintball, playing paintball with everybody else in the company, and you're the only IT person, and you just happen to be I was just a walking target. I think our audit person, she was the only person in audit, and she had a red jacket on. I'm like, are you crazy? We're playing paintball here. They're coming after you. Just like they're coming after me.
So one thing you mentioned, Lauren, was kind of a more declarative model. Can you expand on that at all?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the whole point of ACI really is to embrace that declarative model where we're setting policies and we say that, this is how the network is going to end up. And then we use different protocols, different APIs to make that happen. So actually in your blog that I read before we came on here, you bring up OpFlex, for instance, which is one of the things that allows us to do this declarative model. So OpFlex is a southbound API that we can use to integrate with, say, L4 through 7 devices, various things like that, which allows us to kind of streamline the way that we do upgrades, for instance, or the way that we can see the different features that are available, let's say in a load balancer, firewall, things like that. So, for instance, right now you can use a device package that a vendor makes, let's say F5 or something, an F5 load balancer. They create a device package that you install and you manage through the APIC then, and you get all of the different features and on and off switches and things along those lines that you can configure then through the APIC. When we integrate OpFlex into that, we are able to, upgrade the F5 firmware and components, and let's say there are more features added. So OpFlex will then communicate with the APIC and make that easier, so that we can then see those new features on the APIC. We get kind of a seamless upgrade, and everything still maintains that declarative model. So that's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to, that's one of the ways that we are embracing the declarative model. But basically all of ACI is about declaring the end policy. In your blog, and it's a famous kind of example, it's like the traffic controllers, right, that say, what is the example? It's, the pilot of... What is that example? Of course, now I'm like losing it. You mentioned it in your blog. The traffic controller is telling us what the plane needs to do, right? The plane needs to go taxi out here, take off eventually. But the traffic controllers don't need to say, okay, pilots, now turn on the switch. Now, start the propeller or whatever. they don't need to know each instruction set to tell the pilots. They're telling them the end result, and the pilots do it because they know how to do that already.
And that's really a lot different, at least in a way of thinking, for your people who are implementing this in the traditional model, because when I was really big into networking, I was doing the whole Cisco Network Academy thing back in the Catalyst days. That was awesome. And,
Hey, don't be busting on that. You know?
I loved that stuff. It was great. But you really it was more of a start at the beginning and work your way to your final configuration. It wasn't like, all right, I need to make sure that application X can talk to application Y and it's behind this firewall, and just go do and make it happen.
Well, God forbid you have, different vendor models and things like that, so that you need to know every different command line for every different, model of every different manufacturer. It becomes tedious, and that takes up a lot of time as well.
So, Lauren, how does this work with like a cloud solution or a hybrid? Let's say you have a hybrid environment, part of your network or your environment's in the cloud. Let's say Amazon or Azure. And then you still have some on-prem infrastructure.
Yeah, so basically you would use it in your on-prem infrastructure, and then like any network, you would just connect it using L2 or L3, layer 2 or layer 3 to connect to whatever switches or firewalls or however you're kind of terminating that into the cloud. So it's really not any different than if you were just connecting over to a different part of your network, things like that. And we can do, I think, even between data centers as well. I think up to 30 kilometers right now is the max. But so yeah, it's not. There's nothing magical about that. It's just kind of how you want to connect out.
So you couldn't, let's say you had a data center in India or the UK.
You would need to do kind of like two separate ACI, and then use like DCI or something in between, however you communicate between those sites.
Okay.
But ACI won't do it like natively right now.
Okay, so it'd be like a farm of ACIs then?
Yeah, basically. It would be like separate ACI.
Okay, so okay, so basically separate environments.
Right.
Okay.
They could still communicate, of course, because you're going to go through that, layer 2 or layer 3 connection out. But yeah, it's not going to be like you're not going to control it from the same APIC, for instance.
Okay.
So I guess, this is kind of a different way of thinking from how we traditionally do things. What's like a couple of the biggest barriers you see kind of people running into mindset-wise, process-wise, that would prevent them from going to this type of architecture?
So I don't know if I see something that would prevent them, but there are definitely things that are hard to wrap your mind around if you've been doing networking for several years. The whole idea of identity and location having to be the same. We do that through IP addresses, right?
Right.
We don't need to worry about that anymore. We don't have to. We can use VXLANs instead of just VLANs. We break out of that VLAN barrier, and like many other SDN solutions, it's not, VXLAN is an open protocol, not standardized by Cisco. So, we can break apart that kind of, just because it's in this VLAN doesn't mean that it's, necessarily going to have a certain IP address and things like that. The other barriers I see are probably, I'm trying to think of the best examples. It really, I think, just comes down to understanding how. It comes down to a network guy kind of opening their mind, basically.
Free your mind.
Right. A bridge domain isn't really the same as a VLAN anymore. Although technically they are the same, but bridge domains now within ACI are containers for subnets. We can have multiple subnets in there. We don't necessarily need to do layer 2 flooding, although we can if we want, but we actually turn off layer 2 flooding. So by default. So there's just some interesting things that you need to like spend some time with it in order to kind of change the way you've always thought about networking.
So does that mean the internet is powered by unicorns?
Yes.
or it is.
Yes, that is.
ACI
That's
is
the whole
powered
point.
by unicorns.
It is.
What color are unicorns? Purple, pink, or what?
I want to say white. That's kind of majestic.
Okay.
So are we going to see? Do you think we'll see like a purple unicorn for branch offices in the future or something like that?
Yeah, right. Well, I don't. Have you guys seen the ACI is cool picture with the smug Cisco guy on the unicorn riding the unicorn?
No.
I'll tweet it
That's
out.
awesome.
Okay. Also, yes, ACI.
Yeah.
So it's official. ACI is powered by unicorns.
Are they virtual or physical unicorns?
It is.
It can be both. That's the beauty of
It's a
ACI.
hybrid unicorn.
That's right. It can be physical or virtual. We don't care. We see it all the same.
All unicorns are created equal.
That's right. No discrimination here.
Judgment-free zone. Kind of switching gears a little bit. So the big news, Skype for Business. I guess it's official this week. It's out. What do you guys think? Well, especially Lauren, Cisco has a competing collaboration.
We do. Our WebEx, basically.
Yeah. So
The only thing with Skype is I understand that there's a lot of brand recognition behind the word Skype, and you hear Skype, okay, it's video calling, it's IP-based phone calling, it's all this great stuff, it's all this great collaboration tools, but it doesn't say enterprise to me. You know what I mean? I mean, I know it's Skype for business, but I think
it doesn't.
I'm gonna Skype my friend and play some video games. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think the same thing.
It doesn't
Yeah,
say business, but what Microsoft is doing is, in my eyes, they're taking that Skype brand and bringing it into the business because people recognize it more so than they recognize Link. I mean, I think before the show I was telling you, I was in a meeting with some executives and we were explaining Link, and because we're rolling out Link. Oh, you get meeting, you get video bridging, and all this really neat collaboration tools. And the guy's listening to it, and then he goes, you know what would be really cool if we could have Skype here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I just sat there and I go,
Then,
I'm like, give me about 2 months, dude. Yeah, about 2 months. But yeah, he's really great if we had Skype here, because I could do all these really, I could do everything you're telling me in Skype. So it's that brand. As this executive, he understood what Skype was. He's used it, but Link, which is basically Skype, it's like, what the hell is Link? So I see where Microsoft is going with that, because at first I was like, wow, they're going Skype, but it's definitely, they're going after that brand. People recognize it. It has a lot of money and power behind it.
Have you seen it all? I mean, the great thing about WebEx is kind of being able to manage all of the participants on the side, where I don't get that same feeling with Skype or Link. But I prefer use Skype or Link for other things,
I think it depends what you're trying to do.
Right.
I try not to admit that I am a Link administrator. I've been a Link.
What was it called back in the day? Like 5 or so years ago when it was first a thing. Was it Microsoft Communicator, maybe?
Yeah.
It was OCS.
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 OCS servers. They were virtual and they were a pain in the ass.
They were just so sensitive.
I know.
I used to have to deal with them all the time.
They need a Prozac or a Valium or something. It was just like, it's, Link, I need a Valium every day, I think.
Yeah, you know what happens when your OCS server runs out of space?
The same thing that happens when your Exchange server runs out of space.
Yeah. And everyone freaks out that they can't IM people.
Bye.
What do you mean? I can't talk to you.
It's done.
Get up and walk down the hallway. How about that?
But no, I don't want to. I want to call you on my laptop because it's so much easier. Let's video call, even though the person's in the cube next door.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it just makes us lazy.
I had a guy that was trying to do the video link chat at my last job, and but it was 9:30 at night, and I was just in my pajamas on my couch, and I'm like, I can't have video chat.
Well, WebEx with video, I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. Sorry.
No, don't turn that on.
We're not turning that on.
Yeah, put tape on top of your camera. It's on.
Exactly.
I hover over the camera.
I can't remember. I was getting on this call once, and it was a WebEx saying, like, and sort of whoever was running was like, I think it'd be great if we all turned our video on. I'm like, we're not doing that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when people work from home. Yeah. Just,
Right.
I had to get dressed for this podcast.
Same here. It's like, oh man,
That's
I have
awesome.
to shower. And
We never would have known.
yeah. I guess there's another security breach with another Blue Cross provider.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think we're just going to hear more about it now. I think it's awareness. Businesses, just not Blue Cross providers, but businesses in general, I think are more sensitive to this now. They're more aware and tuned that security, is a risk, and they do have to start, assessing their environment. They're starting to take it more seriously.
I forget what I was. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I forget what I was reading. Yeah, I was reading something. I don't know if it's a Wisconsin thing, or if it's something that we're looking at nationwide. But I believe that businesses are at least statewide here are going to be required at some point to announce breaches within a certain period of time. So
I think it's a law.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to make it a federal law now or something.
Okay.
Yeah, there's something going on with that.
It should be. There should
definitely
be awareness about that.
And I think companies need to take security more seriously too. Oh yes, we have antivirus and we have our firewalls, but it's just more than those components. You got to take a look at your USB drives, and also privilege access. I think is a big thing too. The IT department.
Yes.
We have the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
As an exchange administrator with domain admin rights, I can almost shut down the company by taking down my mail servers. I mean, most companies be criminal.
I remember a couple years ago, and I know this because I'm
security though.
Huh?
I remember this a couple years ago because I'm a VMware person. This guy got fired, and they didn't disable his access, and he went to McDonald's and started blowing away ESX hosts. They never disabled anything. I'm
I remember that story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody
he's running all your servers.
Somebody in San Francisco, I think, locked out the city of San Francisco. A former employee, I guess, locked everybody out of their network. I mean, I think IT people are probably I don't want to say we're more risk because we do
internal risk, right?
Yeah, we have privileged access, and the things that we do, we have to take. We got to take that privileged access seriously and hold it to the highest regard because. Be sensitive with our passwords and our service accounts passwords.
You mean my password shouldn't be password?
Password 123 pound.
Use the @.
Yeah.
Password and $sign and
bang, bang, bang. But yeah, and I think IT people probably we take it for granted sometimes that we have all this access. Especially think about a DBA in your a DBA admin. For the company's ERP system, and your system gets infected with a virus, but you have a map drive to your SQL server. That's not a good thing. Yeah, you could. I mean, right there is a potential breach, especially if that's your ERP and you've got customer data there.
Yeah,
well, wasn't it RSA that had someone just open their email and click on whatever link because they didn't know what it was? And it wasn't even IT. It was just social engineering.
Well, I think that's what happened at Anthem. The Anthem breach started with it was a DBA, I believe, or someone in IT that opened an email with malicious content in it, and from there it just spread. And it was just something innocent as opening up an email. Teaches everybody if you don't know who that email's from, don't open it, especially if it's a zip file. And it's and trust me, if you didn't order something and FedEx sends you something saying you have a package and you don't remember ordering it, please don't open it. Or UPS.
Yeah.
You don't remember ordering anything. It's probably
I've been seeing quite a few of those lately, actually, to my personal accounts. And another one too that keeps coming through. Invoices, invoices from these companies I've never heard of. So
or the Citibank account that you're late on. Yeah, and you don't have a Citibank account. It's probably not real.
And you don't have one.
Or the fake Facebook account, some fake Facebook account. Oh, click here. This is you, because it's not you, and then it's like from
Yeah.
some weird ass domain.
Yeah.
Yeah, not clicking that thing.
And yeah, and the IRS isn't
Yeah.
really after you via
Oh,
email.
the IRS phone scam. Have you guys heard about
Yeah,
the
yes.
IRS phone scam? We
I
actually
got one yesterday. I got one yesterday.
I was
I
getting
think-
them last week.
I should probably play it for you guys. It's hilarious. I'm like, is this for real? Oh my god, I just got
Was it
scammed.
Agent Nikki or whatever?
No, it was somebody from the security department from the IRS. It was about my case, and if I didn't call back right away, I was getting in big trouble, and he didn't know what else to do for me except pray. Pray that, and best of luck to me if I didn't call him back right away.
Oh my gosh.
And
Nice.
did I call him back? No. I'm just gonna go with
No.
the praying.
Well, I think that's about it for tonight. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us and teaching us more about ACI.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I love being on.
Yeah, we've been educated.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Yeah.
Well, there's always more
Yeah,
information, so feel free to reach out to me.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Again.
See you in April.
Have a good night.